I welcome everyone for today's webinar series. This is the South Asia workshop series on the MIKE project, that monitoring the illegal killing of elephants. And during this phase of the MIKE project, which is under implementation in 5 South Asian countries in this region, that is India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. So we have organized this webinar series, which is the first day is today. It is a 5-episode webinar series in which the purpose share the learnings under the project and what was in the identified by 15 MIKE sites in the 5 countries. There are challenges of human elephant movement also. During this phase, this project is now coming to end this month, which was supposed to be over last year in June, but because of COVID challenges, it has been extended till February 2021. And I am really grateful that with the cooperation and coordination of all, in spite of the COVID challenges, we have been able to ensure most of the deliverables, the collection of the data, and in some of the state MIKE sites, we are even able to get the data for 2020 also, not envisaged in the initial deliverables during the project. As a MIKE project, we know that it was initiated, the MIKE concept, after the crisis meeting in 1997 in Harare. So in this region, initially there was one phase of 2003 to 2006, and then further to that during the present phase, which was initiated discussion in 2015 and has been under implementation from 2016-17 onwards till now. So the challenges in the region is not related to the illegal killing, because somewhere when we say that the monitoring of illegal killing of elephants, it is more of the challenge of the human-elephant conflict management. Because of that, there are casualties in terms of the loss of human deaths also, as well as elephant deaths also, apart from the crop damage and others. So during this webinar series, apart from the key learnings during the project and suggestions during the panel discussion, in one of the webinar series, we have also set up for the experience sharing by the respective states in innovations or use of technological innovations in the addressing human-elephant conflict management. And with me today, we have a eminent panelists or key persons during today's seminar representing, basically representative for the, today it is for the Nepal and Bhutan. So as we see on the screen, we have Mr. Tinjay Wangli and Dr. Narendra from Nepal, Dr. Haribhadra Acharya also from Nepal, Dr. Prahlad Thapa, Dr. Nakul Chetri from EC Mode Kathmandu, Ms. Sharing Jam, and Mr. Tashi Dorji from Bhutan. So with these words, I welcome everyone for today's meeting. And may I now invite Ms. Aban Markar Kabaraji, Regional Director, IUCN Asia Regional Office, for her opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Vivek, and welcome everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning and to see, over this very difficult time of COVID, the India office has done an exemplary job with all the webinars that they've been able to organize, both within India and for the region. And it's greatly appreciated because, to try and continue to focus on what is important for us, when for most of us, where we really need to be, which is the field, is not available and has not been available almost for a year now. So I'm really pleased that all of you have made the time to attend this, and particularly on the whole issue of the MIKE project and, elephants and all they represent as an apex species in the habitats in which they exist. I would also like you to stretch a little further in terms of what we do on this project in the future as your discussions take place. Because as Vivek has told you, this project started in terms of support from CITES, and the mandate was actually quite narrow. we tried in the early days to push CITES a little bit to expand the mandate so that it was more than just the monitoring of the illegal killing of elephants. We wanted them to expand it into areas of human-elephant conflict. We wanted them to expand it into areas to do with things like the illegal wildlife trade, and to see what the impact of that might be, which is not that much a problem in India, but it is a problem particularly in Southeast Asia, where the project was also working. Anyway, CITES is part of the UN system, and therefore, they have constraints in terms of how much they can push the boundaries. But that is something certainly that I would like you all to contribute to in terms of what do we do next. This project has been extended because of COVID, and it goes on for a few months, but it would be very useful over the next few months to work with Vivek and Scott and Prahlad in Nepal, all the IUCN people, in trying to see where we can build upon this. Now, as you know, that what Mike has been able to establish is that the work they've done in terms of the data collection, in terms of fulfilling the mandate of the project, has been very good. There's been a lot of information that's been gathered. There's been a lot of data that was provided. And as Scott and Vivek, Scott is the overall coordinator of the project in our regional office, both for Southeast Asia and South Asia, have been able to establish that what is important in the Asian context is, yes, there's been a certain amount of illegal killing of elephants, and yes, there is poaching for ivory, etc. But the real issue has been human-elephant conflict. And it's particularly acute right now in a project we're working on with the Rohingya in Bangladesh, where the camp is right on the border between Myanmar and Bangladesh, right on an elephant corridor. And it's been very interesting to see how the Bangladesh IUCN office has worked with UNHCR there to try and demonstrate that you can work even in really fairly squalid conditions with refugees to make them feel involved in trying to ensure that neither are the humans hurt and neither are the elephants damaged. And over the period that project has worked in the Rohingya camp, not a single elephant death has occurred. And after the project started, not a single human death has occurred. But before the project started, there was a real possibility of both. So, that's the kind of example we want to build on. There was a point at which we even had an informal discussion between the ministers in Myanmar, the previous government, and Bangladesh about the possibility of establishing an elephant corridor across the border. And they were receptive. But then, we need the funds, we need the political environment in order to take that further. But it's the kind of thing, it would be wonderful to build upon the work that's been done on Mike and take it forward. So that really is where I'd like you all to think in terms of, is there the potential for a regional project here? Even if we start with just South Asia, is there a potential to work across borders on human-elephant conflict and human-elephant migration? And if so, IUCN would be the right platform to do it, because all the governments in South Asia are state members of IUCN. So we have a particular mandate to work with the states, and of course the states ultimately have to make the decision in terms of any regional or cross-border work. And this is really one of the things I think we would like to discuss with you. To move from the CITES mandate, which was human-elephant conflict and killing, to move to what is the key issue in South Asia or even Southeast Asia. And if it's human-elephant conflict, which may sometimes lead to the killing, then let us start looking at identifying that as the key problem, and let us see how we might continue to work on that. And I know there are many, many institutions in India and in other parts of South Asia where this is now almost a specialization of its own, which have spent decades studying human-elephant conflict. Is there a way that we can move the current platform we have of Mike to take it forward to actually make human-elephant conflict the way forward that we wish to work? And I would particularly like to put this in the context of the work that is currently being discussed on the global stage. You know that recently the Dasgupta report, the Partha Dasgupta report, is now being quoted globally as the standard around which everyone needs to discuss biodiversity. Is there a way we can take the Dasgupta report? And of course, as you know, Partha Dasgupta is an Indian. He has worked with IUCN at one point when we hosted a economics for the environment institution called SANDI, which was actually based in our Nepal office. And we hosted SANDI for many, many years. And Professor Dasgupta is on, I don't know if he still is, but at that time he was on the board of SANDI. So he knows us, we know him. Is there a way we can bring him in to look and maybe be some sort of an advisor to something like this? Because it would certainly bring a lot of prominence to the possibilities of working. And of course, he has now demonstrated the economic importance of biodiversity through that report. It is now, to my mind, going to be the alternative to this, the other side of the Stern report on climate change. The Stern report on climate change became the gold standard to start seriously looking at the economics of climate change. If the Dasgupta report becomes the gold standard to look at the economics of biodiversity, then we have in there a way forward to start quantifying. And if you look at what the illegal killing of elephants is, in some cases it's conflict, but it's conflict over the economics of a particular land area, of land use. So ultimately, unless the elephant's survival is economically set against the land use issue, you're not really going to get to the heart of what the killing is all about. And if it's illegal wildlife poaching, then again, it's the economics of poaching versus the economics of keeping the elephant in situ in its habitat. So either way, you're dealing with an economic argument, either agricultural conflict or the value of the poached ivory. And so therefore, I think it would be a really good case study to take what we've learned from Mike as to where the killing takes place, why it takes place, what the deaths are due to, and try and somehow equate those to the economics of the land use in the areas where these elephants are living, their habitat, and why they're being killed. And if we could work something out like that, and right now I think a good concept proposal taken forward would find funding, because everybody I think is now looking for this. And it would be a really, really good project. If you add to that the work that Pawan Sukhdev and his people have done through TEEB, the economics of biodiversity. And again, Pawan is an Indian. And there again, he did one of the first studies which we ever did on the economics of wildlife when he looked at the value of the vultures in South Asia. And when he looked at the value of the vultures, he found that the value of a vulture as a scavenger in terms of keeping the ecosystem healthy was equated at, I can't remember how much, but I think it was $700 or $800 a year or something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but I know they valued the vulture. One vulture is worth that much in the economics of the Indian context alone. And then you looked at how many vultures you were killing or that were dying because of diclofenac and so on. And there was a very powerful argument to be made. I think one needs to look at that in terms of the value of an elephant to the ecosystem, to the habitat. But that sort of study, as far as I know, has not been done. But we have the raw data in Mike now to develop something like that. So I would really appeal to all of you that think about that as you go along. You have so much information. But how can we take it to the next step to try and make a case in the South Asian context for the conservation of the elephant from an economic point of view, as much as from an aesthetic, moral, value-based, it's the right thing to do point of view. So thank you. That's my contribution to your discussion, and I hope that it meets some receptivity, because you all are the experts, and ultimately you all will decide how best to take this forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aman, and really you have given very valuable guidance during the entire project period, and your idea that linking it with the economics of the biodiversity, ultimately human-elephant conflict challenges, they are too much linked with the basically economics of the land, because there is a loss of livelihood as well as loss of crops. Apart from that, because of the infrastructure development, there have been conflict issues, and addressing these conflicting issues, human-elephant conflict, that has been the challenge in the region, especially the five South Asian countries where we are implementing this project. And this, because now in India, the elephant population of the Asian elephant population in the wild is more than 30,000. So it is not the challenge related to the illegal killing. So the managing the elephant habitat, so that encroaching about their habitat, the degradation and fragmentation of the habitat, that has been the challenge. And under this MIKE project, we are really grateful to you and Scott, head of NRG Group, for steering this project, especially in the South Asia and also Southeast Asia. And thank you very much once again. And Mr. Mrigesh Kshatriya from CITES Secretariat, he was supposed to join, but we received a mail from Sia that that he will also not be able to join today. And Sia will be joining in the subsequent webinars that she has sent the message. And so I will request Dr. Scott Perkins, who is the head of Natural Resources Group, IUCN Asia Regional Office, Bangkok, to give an overview from the global perspective, from the CITES Secretariat perspective also, and as well as for the perspective from the Asia region also. Scott, let me give a brief introduction about him. He has been engaged in biodiversity conservation for over 30 years. He began his career in 1983 in East Africa, where he worked with WWF and IUCN on project design and management. And following his time in Africa, he further moved to Asia, where he worked for IUCN in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Laos, Fiji. And he later moved to UK, where he has served as a coordinator of the Norfolk Biodiversity Partnership in England, a consortium of 21 government agencies and NGOs. In 2012, Mr. Scott returned to Asia, and presently he is currently heading of the Natural Resource Group in the IUCN Asia Regional Office, Bangkok. He is originally from Canada and holds a bachelor's degree in biology and environmental studies from USA. So welcome, Mr. Scott, for taking it forward.
Thank you very much, Vivek, and good morning, everyone. I'd really like to join Dr. Vivek Saxena and Ms. Abamarkar Kabraji in welcoming you to this webinar on MIKE and on human-elephant conflict. So as was mentioned already, MIKE originated in 1997 at CITES COP10 with the adoption of a now quite famous resolution, Resolution 1010. And the focus of MIKE has evolved over the years, and Resolution 1010 has actually been amended 6 times to date to address some of the emerging issues. But the overall goal of MIKE remains quite clear, and that is essentially to help provide elephant range states with the information needed to make appropriate management and enforcement decisions. So the global objectives of MIKE are to measure and record changes in the level of the illegal killing of elephants, to assess whether and to what extent these trends are related to CITES or to the legal ivory trade, to establish an information base to support decision-making on elephant management, protection, and enforcement, and to build capacity in elephant range states for the long-term management of their elephant populations. So since 2017, IUCN has been privileged to lead the implementation of the CITES MIKE program in Asia with the generous financial support of the European Union. The program has worked in 29 MIKE sites in 13 countries, covering both Southeast Asia and South Asia. And without going into a lot of detail, I think it's fair to say that the program has made quite an important contribution to furthering the objectives of Mike in Asia. So amongst other accomplishments is helped to collate the data on elephant carcasses from all the countries involved and to feed this data into CITES. It has carried out law enforcement capacity assessments at a majority of Mike sites, and these assessments provide really valuable baseline information about the law enforcement and capacity needs of individual sites. The project has also provided essential equipment like GPS units and binoculars and other types of equipment to Mike sites to help with management and monitoring. It's provided training in the use of SMART, the spatial monitoring and reporting tool. And importantly to today's conversation, the program has also provided training in human-elephant conflict prevention and mitigation. So at this point, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all the Mike national focal points in all the countries, the governments of the elephant range states, the Mike Central Coordination Unit in Nairobi, and also the IUCN country offices for all the support that they've provided to Mike over the last 3 years. And it's really this support which has enabled us to achieve our objectives and to deliver these various outputs and outcomes. One of the key findings of the Mike Asia program, as already mentioned by Ms. Kabraji and Dr. Saxena, is the importance of human-elephant conflict in Asia. And I think in this regard, we differ as a region from Africa, which was the initial focus of the Mike program. So this conflict in Asia has led to the deaths of hundreds of elephants and hundreds of people over the years. And it seems almost certain that the conflict will intensify as natural habitats continue to shrink, as human populations continue to grow, and in some countries, as the elephant populations themselves continue to expand. So in response to this finding, Mike and the Asia Protected Areas Partnership organized an intensive 4-day masterclass on human-elephant conflict prevention and mitigation back in February 2019. So the masterclass was held in collaboration with the IUCN Species Survival Commission's Human Wildlife Conflict Task Force and also the IUCN SSC Asian Elephant Specialist Group, which I know many of you on this webinar today are members of. The masterclass had nearly 40 participants in total and had representatives from 12 different Asian countries. And some of the findings of the masterclass, I think, were particularly interesting and I think are particularly pertinent to today's discussion. So amongst other findings, the masterclass pointed out that the successful mitigation of human-elephant conflict is very complex and it requires much more than building a fence. You know, often we tend to jump to what we see as quick fixes, easy solutions like building a fence, but to be successful in the long term, conflict mitigation requires a much deeper understanding than this. And it really requires a detailed analysis of the conflict and the development of a deep understanding of the underlying causes behind the conflict. We actually learned during the master class that ideally one would study a particular conflict situation for at least 1 year before starting to take any action in order to develop that deep understanding. It was also clear from the master class that there's no one-size-fits-all approach. There's a need to adapt the methods and adapt the processes to fit the local context in each situation. And finally, there's a need for a holistic approach, an approach that integrates elephant ecology with spatial analyses using GIS, for example, and also with an understanding of human behavior, human psychology, human attitudes, and social norms. Because very often, the problem is not just about elephants, it's also about people and how these two interact and respond to each other. So in short, human-elephant conflict is a major challenge for elephant conservation in Asia and also for human well-being. And I think this makes today's seminar particularly timely and important. So in closing, I'd just like to express my sincere thanks again to the European Union for their support to the MIKE program in Asia. I'd also like to thank the IUCN India office for taking the time to put together and organize this webinar. And I'd also like to thank all of you for participating in today's discussions. I know we have a very full program, so I'll end my comments here, but I very much look forward to hearing from the other presenters and panelists during the course of today. So thank you very much, and back to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Dr. Scott, for giving an overview of the program, key challenges, achievements, and the way forward. I think certainly during this 5 series webinars, we will be having a lot to learn, and through these learnings, we will be able to develop some future programs also. And meanwhile, we have also been joined by Ms. Jenny Lundmark, and she is the program officer, delegation of the European Union to Thailand. And welcome, Ms. Jenny, and also to the European Union for support to this MIKE program. And we are really happy that at our very short request that you have been able to make it. And before we proceed further, I will request you to have your brief remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vivek, and apologies for being late due to the rather short notice. I had another meeting I just had to finish first, but I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to be invited. It's a pleasure for the European Union, of course, to support this CITES MIKE South Asia workshop on monitoring the illegal killings of elephants, the MIKE program, as you call it. I wanted to take the chance to maybe speak a little bit about the European Union, because I'm not sure that all participants know, maybe you do, and then apologies in advance. But the European Union is a unique economic and political partnership between 27 European states who have decided to gradually link together their know-how, resources, and destinies. Together during a period of enlargement for 50 years, we built a zone of stability, democracy, and sustainable development, while I think maintaining cultural diversity, tolerance, and individual freedoms. We are therefore naturally committed to promote regional cooperation among governments, and also one of the reasons why we are happy to support the MIKE program, which works across so many borders, both in South Asia and Southeast Asia. We have been supporting the MIKE programs since it was established in 2001 by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna. Funding for the MIKE activities in Asia only started in 2017, and we really hope that we will be able to continue past 2021 when the current program unfortunately ends. You are all much more aware of the details of MIKE and what it does and how you do it, so I'm not going to go into these details. I will just mention a few of the results of MIKE seen from the European Union perspective, because we think they're very well noteworthy. I think MIKE has been instrumental in documenting the levels of elephant poaching in Africa and in Asia. It allows us to qualify the scale and impact of poaching, which facilitates improved policies and efficient use of resources. I think MIKE has also been instrumental in identifying poverty, poor governance, and demand for ivory as the 3 most likely drivers of poaching. Information provided by MIKE has helped put ivory trade on the international agenda, and continue to prompt decision makers, some quicker than others, of course, to take decisive action. Mike has supported ranger-based monitoring systems across the region and assisted protected area management and wildlife authorities to better use their resources to protect their national heritage. Today, we focus on human-elephant conflict and specifically in Nepal and Bhutan. As development activities accelerate in both countries, elephants in Bhutan and Nepal faces threats from habitat degradation and fragmentation in their natural environment. This results in conflict with humans, which often cascades into retaliatory killings and also risk of transmission of zoonotic diseases. A risk which we have always known was there, but which I think in particular this year we've become extremely aware of let's say, since 2019. The MIKE program has responded by focusing on early warning systems, using better equipment, training like the masterclass that Scott just introduced, and capacity building. All of them with the overall aim to limit the number of losses on both sides. There is little doubt that the increasing fragmentation of remaining forest in Asia, the rapid increase in the elephant population in Nepal and Bhutan, maybe due to migration from India, particularly in Nepal, are among the main reasons for the increase in human-elephant conflict in both countries. We are therefore happy to work in support of Mike, also on the broader issues of natural resource conservation and protection of biodiversity hotspots across South and Southeast Asia. The European Union is proud to support this initiative because we share many of your concerns. We don't have a lot of elephants in Europe, not wild anyway, but we have been at the forefront of the fight against illegal wildlife trade, both domestically and globally over the last decade, because it undermines some of our core values and objectives. The European Union aims to protect biodiversity. We support the rule of law. We promote economic development. We help foster peace and stability in many regions across the world. Trafficking in wildlife and illegal killings of elephants eat away at the very foundation of these efforts. And we have a responsibility, whether we like it or not, and we are part of the problem. The EU is a market, it's a transit zone, and it's a source of wildlife products. Our airports are transit points for ivory, rhino horn, and other wildlife products. And many of these are sourced in Africa and destined for Asia. When it comes to a role in wildlife trafficking, very few countries are exempt. I hope this meeting will facilitate improved regional coordination and learning from one another. The latest assessment done by you all confirms that poaching continues to threaten the long-term survival of the African elephant. We're not out of the woods, so to speak, and we want to eradicate illegal elephant poaching and diminish human-elephant conflict through better monitoring, better studying, early warning, and ultimately peaceful coexistence. The elephant is one of the truly iconic species that we have left on the planet. And I hope you will have, and I hope that we will live to see them survive in relatively healthy numbers. And with those last words, I just want to wish you a fruitful and encouraging discussion. I realize that this is the first of 5 webinars you will be having over the next 2 weeks, and I hope to be able to participate in a few of them and learn from you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jenny, and for giving an oversight and of support to the entire program. And as during the discussion, we see that it has a lot of potential now because a lot of good data and assessment has been generated. And we have also learned that the challenges in the region relate to beyond illegal killing, it relates to more because of the increasing number of elephants, because of the conservation issues and conservation interventions. The numbers have increased, like in India, we have more than 30,000 Asian elephants in the wild. Similarly, in other countries, as you mentioned, that Nepal and Bhutan, they have also increased in population. But at the same time, there is a challenge related to the conflict and how to manage this, because at the same time, there are developments is going on, new infrastructure is coming up, and at the same time, there is a disruption in the habitats or habitat degradation or disconnectivity between the corridors. So these are the challenges. And I hope that based on this key learning during this webinar series, the way forward which we'll be discussing, the European Union will be certainly supporting some new phase of the project also, which is what I thank you again. And I hope that you will be joining in the other webinar series episodes also. And thank you very much. And may I now request Ms. Sherin Zam. She is a Mike National Focal Point, Department of Forest and Park Services, Royal Government of Bhutan, for giving an oversight about the Mike program in Bhutan.
Thank you, Dr. Saxena. Good morning, everyone. Hello, Namaste, and Kozambola from Bhutan. Regional Director, ICN Asia Regional Office, Head of Natural Resources Group, ICN Asia Regional Office, Country Representative of ICN India and Nepal, Member of Delegations from the European Union, Indian Institute of Science, ICIMOT, Mike National Focal Point, and ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to speak on behalf of the Mike National Focal Point of Bhutan, housed under the Department of Forest and Park Services, Royal Government of Bhutan, during today's South Asia webinar series. Actually, my chief Sonamongdi was supposed to speak during this session, but due to some urgent meeting that came up in the last minute, he couldn't make it, and I would like to convey his apologies and regrets for not being able to make it to this meeting. For Bhutan, the Mike program started in early 2003, whereby Samsi Zongkhak was identified and approved as the Mike site of Bhutan. Although the area has comparatively less elephant population, the site has reported highest conflict rates in the past few years, due to which our communities experience conflict with elephants, especially during the cropping season, and fearing for possible retaliatory killing due to the conflict. The site was registered as a Mike site for Bhutan. Through the initial support of the program, Bhutan has received some equipment and capacity building support for our field rangers. But over the time, Mike project died out in the region, and later in 2010, efforts were made to revive the program in South Asia, during which we had shown our interest to expand our Mike sites beyond Samsi. Although the funding for Mike program has remained inconsistent in the past, we have continued to contribute data and information related to elephant death to CITES, with the hope that the data and the information supplied to the CITES Authority program will help the Mike Secretariat in designing appropriate management and enforcement decisions beyond monitoring of killing of elephants and mitigating human-elephant conflict in the region. The relaunch of Mike program in 2017, after a long gap, is a notable event in the history of Mike program, and its effort towards curbing illegal killing of elephant and its impact on elephant conservation in the range state. To this, I would like to convey our sincere appreciation to ICN India office, who is spearheading the revival of this very important program in the conservation of one of the keystone species that plays a very important role in our ecosystem. I would like to make a mention and kindly acknowledge the support received through this program in the last 3 years through the ICN India office in terms of capacity building and addressing the human-elephant conflict in our Mike site. The details of which will be presented by Mr. Thilondi when he presents the overview and challenges of human-elephant conflict in the Mike site. We have also had the opportunity to coordinate the Mike South Asia regional meeting here in Thimphu in October 2019 in collaboration with the IUCN India office, during which many impactful outputs were discussed. Now, before I conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the EU and IUCN for the support in reviving the Mike program. We hope that the Mike program will continue to support the Mike sites in South Asia in the coming years, and look forward to knowing how the data that we, the range countries, have submitted to CITES can be converted into outcomes that will be helpful to the range states in their effort to successful elephant conservation in the region. Lastly, I wish our South Asia webinar a great success and wishing all participants good health and happiness in the midst of this COVID pandemic. Thank you and Tashidele.
Thank you, Mr. Sherry, and for giving the overview of Mike's program in Bhutan and the ways it started and your suggestions and expectations. Certainly, the program needs to be strengthened further. And thank you very much once again. And may I now request Mr. Haribhadra Acharya. He's a Mike National Focal Point, ecologist, Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation, Government of Nepal. Mr. Acharya, you're muted. You have to unmute.
Okay, the sharing of the screen is muted. So I would like to try without sharing the screen for the presentation. Respected Ms. Avan, Regional Director, IUCN Asia Regional Office, Bangkok, and Scott Parkin, IUCN India country represent, and IUCN country represent Nepal, other participants from Asia and South Asia region, and other distinguished participants from different institutions. I would like to thank India IUCN office to organize and coordinate this webinar, long series, almost six days series of this webinar to share the experiences of conservation of elephants, and with special focus on human and elephant conflict and the successful practices in different countries, so that we can get knowledge and be benefited to replicate in other countries too. Especially in Nepal, we have the protection system based on the establishment of different protected areas, national parks, wildlife reserves, and conservation areas in different region, physiographic region, from the lowland Tarai to the high Himalayan range. The habitat of the elephant exists only on the lowland Tarai. There are a total 6 protected areas in Tarai, and in Nepal, the current study shows we have more than 200 wild elephants. They are more migratory between India and Nepal, and also some areas, especially in Parsa and Bardia, in the eastern and western part, there are many residential elephants too. After the eradication of malaria in 1950s in the lowland Tarai, the settlement pressure from the upland hills to the Tarai area increased rapidly. With increasing settlements in the Tarai, the demand for the development infrastructure also increased. So the major issue is the fragmentation of wildlife habitats, especially elephants. They have long migratory routes, and they need to travel long distances, long kilometers. So the tract of forest in the Tarai, as it was fragmented, they are now facing the human-wildlife conflict, especially the settlements. They were established on the corridors by converting the forest area into agricultural fields, and other infrastructure development also is there. So the next issue may be in Nepal, in the lowland area, there is a high pressure of developing the linear infrastructures like rail and roads, irrigation canals, like this. In Tarai, Nepal government is planning to develop the rail infrastructure from east to west. That makes more conflict with the elephants and other wildlife in future. This is also a big challenge. In the western part, Nepal is also implementing CITES MIC program in Shuklaphata National Park. This national park is in the western south of Nepal, and this park is not so big. It's the size of the park is smaller, so the conflict is not in this area more, but we have more conflict in the eastern side. In Jhapa district, there is a big migratory route from West Bengal to Nepal up to Kositapu. The settlement in these areas are facing more problems, especially human-wildlife conflicts. And the study in the past 15 years shows we have more conflict in Bardia National Park. If we see outside the protected area, the conflict is in Jhapa district. Because the protected area system in Nepal looks like islands, and the parks are not well connected to each other. There are many small fragmented patches of forests in between those parks, and there are many settlements. So while migrating from one area to other, the elephant faces many problems, and the conflict arises there. Altogether, in the last 15 years, there were 2 poaching, and the retaliation was 14 elephants. In Nepal, elephants are more killed in retaliation because they walk over the agriculture fields, and they have conflict with the local communities who are residing on their corridors. Especially crop depredation and damage of their houses is the big issue in Nepal. In this revenge, people kill elephants on retaliation. We have practiced different methods to cope with this conflict with elephants. Local community, they practice drumming, firecrackers, sometimes explosives, searchlights, and some view towers are also constructed on the agriculture fields to watch the movement of elephants. And local fences are also erected in the sensitive areas. Tractors are also used, also excavators are also used. We have practiced different instruments to tackle the human elephant conflict. Especially government has approved wildlife damage relief guideline. The killing of anybody, the people, the victimized people can get 1 million Nepalese rupees as relief fund, as compensated. We cannot compensate the damage or loss of the human beings, but the relief fund is provided to the victimized community if human is dead by some wildlife like elephant, tiger, or rhinos. And we also promptly rescue and conduct some treatment and relief to the communities. Awareness is a continued process. Fencing using different models, some concrete fences, some solar fences, and different fences are also assistive fences are also practiced, but this is not so effective, we can say, at least from the ecological perspective, as well as the effectiveness to control the movement of elephant. These are not so effective, but we practice different approaches. We have also developed elephant conservation action plan, signpost or improvement of the habitat is one continue program, and we focus on the restoration of habitat to make better living condition inside the forest, so that elephants, they don't need to go outside to the crop fields. The best practice, especially focused in Bardia National Park, there is one fund establishment, and the interest of this fund is used to respond to the income generation activities and other scholarship programs or allowances to widow or disabilities. This is good practice in Bardia, and we have also practice siren and alarming system. The automatic SMS is sent to the community people once the elephant, the herd of elephant or elephant more than 4,000 kg, this weight gives pressure to the automatic siren system, and people are aware, so that the human elephant conflict we could mitigate. We use different signages along the roads or in the community areas to aware the drivers who are using the roads or other infrastructures. Ways forward, we need to develop the elephant conservation project separately, because inside the protected area, we have already established some management system, conservation system, by developing the habitats for wildlife. But especially in case of elephants, they cannot be we cannot think they are to be within the national park. They have to move outside also. So the project, the concept of developing this elephant project should include all the concerned stakeholders and the program in a holistic approach. Because in the corridor area, it is also the conflict also related to the livelihood or the poverty issues also. Yeah, we need to address the poverty. And establishment of rescue center is very important. In the future, if there is conflict between the elephant and local communities, especially outside the protected area, how we could address and go promptly and response to the community. There is no way still in Nepal. So we have to establish big rescue centers and to implement these, we are very eager to know the knowledge, especially from Sri Lanka or other elephant dominated areas where the good practices are established. But we need to think on this issue also. Without this, the conservation and its success will not go long term, because the local communities, they might be against the conservation. So the prompt rescue is very important, and livelihood improvement is very important. especially to build the permanent type of strong houses, and awareness to local community, especially to make aware about the elephant behavior is maybe another way forward, and develop wildlife friendly infrastructure. In future, in Nepal, we are facing more conflict with such linear infrastructures, because in the lowland Tarai, there is a big pressure of developing or extension of the highways and development of rails in the lowland, also irrigation canals, transmission lines. So at this time, we have to aware and just develop the guidelines and mainstreaming to the plan of infrastructures to make those infrastructures wildlife friendly. This is also very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acharya, for giving an oversight about the challenges, especially when there are development infrastructure and how to have these convergence of these challenges with the wildlife conservation objective. And that has been the emerging issue, especially in the region, maybe at the transboundary level or maybe within the country level. But certainly, I hope that taking in view all these learnings and also integrating early warning systems to ensure mitigation of such conflicts, and that will be really helpful. You really gave a very valuable insight about your ongoing program, in what way you are addressing the human-wildlife conflict and especially human-elephant conflict challenges. And I will be grateful that if you can also share some of these case studies, that will be very helpful in compiling all these issues when we do the webinar proceedings. And I will request Dr. Thapa also to have conversation with you, because we have also shared one Google Drive link in a Skype format, in which you can share the case studies along with the photographs or videos. So that will be a very good compilation. And so thank you, Mr. Acharya, once again, and I'm really grateful for your joining this. And may I now request Dr. Prahlad Thapa, Country Representative IUCN Nepal, to share his views.
Thank you, Dr. Vivek. Namaste. Actually, this has been a very important webinar for sharing what we have learned from MIC implementation. We have Dr. Narendra, who is our expert on MIC. Academically, he's an elephant man known as Elephant Man in Nepal. And also, from his working experience, he has worked in such national parks where we had abundant elephants in Nepal. And from all these perspectives, as we have Dr. Narendra, who is expert, he will be speaking on how the program is going in Nepal. But regarding in general, we as our respected Undersecretary of the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation said, we do not have much problem of human-elephant conflict in the western part, but we have more of this thing in the eastern part. And from our learning from this project implementation in the western part, probably we can have a lot of learning to implement this in a border area in Nepal in the eastern part, where we have more of these problems. And this has been also realized in Nepal that human-elephant conflict is not always just because of elephant, it's because of human efforts also. So there are a few things that has come up. It has been well documented also, which Dr. Narendra will be sharing in his presentation in the technical session. But in the meantime, what we have seen is, learning from this can be mainstream into our regular program, where we can build in the major aspects of how we can really conserve elephant, and then monitor the illegal killing of elephant, and then have good information on how the elephants are conserved in Nepal and how it can be carried forward to take it further for better conservation. So these are few things that I can tell in this meeting from management perspective. But from as I told you, I'm not a human-elephant conflict specialist, nor am I an elephant specialist. So with these few words, I will say thank you very much for including us in the program and giving us opportunity. I would also like to thank EU for supporting this initiative. And I would like to really thank Dr. Saxena for organizing this wonderful webinar. Hope we will have a better presentation on technical aspects of all this during the technical session by Dr. Narendra. I really would like to thank you, our respected regional director, for giving us her time, Dr. Scott Perkin for giving us such a special highlight, our respected undersecretary for giving some important information from Nepal, our colleagues from other countries, Bhutan, India, and other colleagues from Nepal. We would really like to thank all of them, and we would like to express our commitment that we will be happy to work more on this, building on what we have learned from this phase of the implementation. Thank you once again, and I will like to again emphasize that detailed presentation will be there by Dr. Narendra on how is the program in Nepal later on. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thapa, and for your remarks. And may I now request Dr. Nakul Chetri, is a regional program manager for Transboundary Landscape from International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, Kathmandu. And as everyone knows, that ICIMOD is a 8-member countries intergovernmental organization on the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, and especially the ICIMOD role in bringing and supporting various conservation issues along the Hindu Kush Himalayan region is very, very important. And Dr. Chetri has a very important role in the Transboundary Landscape Program, and he has been with ICIMOD since 2002, and he has earlier worked also as a fellow at the Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and Environment in its Eastern Himalayan Program. And I am really thankful to him that at a very short notice, he agreed to join this webinar series. And we are really fortunate to have his views during the webinar series today. So welcome, Dr. Chetri, and the floor is yours for your remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Saxena, and good afternoon to everyone. I think my presentation is visible, Doctor.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, first of all, no, thanks for the opportunity, and respected Ms. Aban, Ms. Jenny, Mr. Scott, and representative from Nepal as well as Bhutan. It's a great opportunity for us to be together and look at these aspects collectively. So what I'll do is, we know that South Asia and also Himalayan region is in the forefront for conservation. But we also have conservation at the cost of some other aspects, as the success of conservation is bringing the consequences, and these consequences are bringing the human-wildlife conflict. So as part of our program, we have been able to go through some level of systematic review to understand the context of human-wildlife conflict in general. And I would like to share this snapshot for your information. So if you look at the human-wildlife conflict literature per se, then you'll see this trend of increasing literature over the period of time. And that also indicates that there is an interest and there is an increasing trend of human-wildlife conflict in the region. So this gives us an opportunity to look at what exactly is happening and where it is happening, more importantly. And if you look at this particular slide, then it'll tell you that human-wildlife conflict literature so far published in the public domain is mostly happening in the vicinity of protected areas. And there is a geographical concentration in terms of some of the areas are more rigorously reviewed and researched, and others are not. And also it indicates that where the conflicts are more. So this information is also giving us an idea that where the conflicts are happening and where are the conflicts are not happening. And also it indicates that there are less research work or research concern given to some of the geographical areas such as Pakistan, some parts of Pakistan, Afghanistan, which is prevalent, but the investment for research is limited. If we have to then categorize this understanding based on the literature, then you'll see that the most of the conflict that is being researched so far is related to food damage, the crop damage. And also the other persons, like 27% are threat to biodiversity related lens that was used in research, and 15% in human safety, and 8% in human and human. That means human are also being targeted, and humans are also being damaged, victimized. So this is the overall trend of types of conflict that has been presented at the edge case level. But what is important for us is to also see the drivers, as it was already mentioned by Ms. Aban, that we need to understand the drivers. And if you look at this particular slide, then you'll see that 27% of the literature says that it is human-driven, and human-driven in sense of urbanization, human-driven in sense of population increase, and human-driven in sense of land use change, deforestation, and forest fragmentation. So likewise, the forest and prey availability is other region where 24% literature says that there are limited prey, and the prey is driving the conflict. Is also related to the people living in the protected areas and vicinity areas, where 23% are related to the area, to the people living in the protected areas and nearby areas. 13% are also reflecting, there is a very pertinent issue of retaliatory killing and also poaching, and some issues, some literature also relates into the existing policies, having some cultural aspects, and also climate change, if you look at this particular slide. Then at the scale, if we want to understand the understanding of literature, then there are issues related to this human-wildlife conflict research. At the country level, there's a maximum done. Local level is also maximum done. But since this whole aspect of human-wildlife conflict is related to contiguous habitat and also transboundary in nature, so they are not reflected at the transboundary level. And even at the the corridor protected areas and outside, you will see that most of the conflicts are near the corridors, near the protected areas, and limited understanding is there at the corridor level. In terms of our focus, actually human-wildlife conflict is a wider subject, and it starts with any type of conflict between human and wildlife. But most of the focus is given at the largest scale, or the large animals. So here you can see that most of the research work was done at the large animals, like 48%, and to go into specific species, the elephant is the major one, the rhinos are there, bear is there, boar is there, monkeys are there. But what is important for us is to also other meso animals like porcupine and other species, which are also damaging very substantially to the livelihood and crops of people, are being ignored or less prioritized. Another very important aspect that we have analyzed is, actually in the Himalayan region, this human-wildlife conflict is transboundary in nature. It has been already reflected by previous speaker that India and Nepal and Bhutan and India, and these have the issue prevalent for all the countries. But in this particular research arena, you'll see that most of the collaboration was done by few countries based on the interest and the investment gone in. So very limited collaboration between the countries except India and Nepal. So other countries are yet to join hands to have a collective and holistic understanding in terms of transboundary or even human-wildlife conflict at the regional scale. So as it was mentioned by Dr. Saxena, that we do have a program called Transboundary Landscape, and we are operational at 4 of the landscapes. So this human-wildlife conflict and genetic diseases and trade are one of the elements we are trying to focus to mitigate and also address at the landscape level. And these are the landscapes that we are referring to. Just to come up with the summary that based on our literature review, recently we have completed this, there is an increasing trend, but uneven in terms of geographical focus, and is mostly related in relation to protected areas, but not in the outside protected areas and corridor context. The transboundary and regional contexts are very limited, and climate change perspective, which are emerging as a major driver, is very, very limited in terms of our focus so far. And also the trade is quite lucrative, but is shadowed over the period, over the period in terms of our understanding. And the emerging issue of the diseases and trade are very, very limited so far. Another very important aspect is we have been focusing our whole lens of our intervention with the human dimension lens. The majority of management strategies are related to the human dimension lens, like crop protection and other things. But the other way around is also equally important, as the conflict is not one way, as we have already mentioned. There is a significant gap in terms of the meso mammals. Only 3% of the total literature we have reviewed is related to meso animals, though they are substantial in terms of the crop damage and other damages. And mostly, the larger animals are there. And ultimately, at the end of the day, at the regional scale, it is important for us to strengthen the regional network, cooperation, and also efforts. So in long run, we can have a collective address in terms of this human-wildlife conflict at the regional level. So with this, I would like to end. Over to you, Dr. Saxena, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Nakul, and you really gave a very good insight reflecting through the literature analysis that itself gives and guides us that how important are the human-elephant or human-wildlife conflict challenges, and especially the EC mode, the role which EC mode plays in these 8 countries in all these areas, and especially in the Himalayan region, and what the relative challenges in human-wildlife conflict. And IUCN will be looking forward to have more partnership with the EC mode. Already, the EC mode and IUCN has one MOU also. I think based on that framework, we can work together for more partnership and more support from yourself. And once again, I am very grateful to you and EC mode for joining for today's webinar series. And with these words, now we will be moving to the technical session. And for the technical session, I will request Mr. Aditya Gangadharan to moderate the session. Mr. Aditya Gangadharan, he has been the part of the MIC program in IUCN India office, especially in the South Asia region. He has been driving this program, and now he has provisionally moved with the Indian Institute of Science, and he's working presently as a research administrator under the long-term ecological observation program. And welcome, Mr. Aditya Gangadharan. And so over to you to take the session further and introducing the panelists and technical session.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So I think it's been an interesting session to begin with. There's a lot of overall background given, a lot of introductory remarks that we've seen both from the perspective of the MIC program as a whole, as well as with the country perspectives of Nepal and Bhutan. And so our goal now is to sort of take forward these in a more sort of a detailed manner, where we really look into the nuts and bolts of what's happening in these countries. And we try to get a better idea of where things are and where they should be moving for the future. So I'd like to begin by asking Dr. Mrugesh Kshatriya, I believe. That's the first session. Is he here? I don't see his...
Aditya, Mr. Mrugesh is not able to join.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess then we could move on to Dr. Narendra Prathan. Is that the order? Are we changing the order? Is that the same?
Namaste, everyone. Can you share my presentation, or can you allow me to share my presentation, Pius? Pius, is there?
I think that has to be done from the IUCN office.
Yeah.
Since that's hosting, can you do that, please? IUCN office.
I think just Vishnu is just doing it.
Is it straight now? My presentation is there?
It's visible here.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Madam Kavraji and Shias from IUCN India, IUCN Nepal, and Nakul sir, and the friends from Bhutan, Aditya, and all participate in this seminar. So in this seminar, I will just present a bit about, give a bit overview about the mic site in Nepal. And I will directly go to the human-elephant conflict situation in Nepal. Then after that, I will tell a brief about what we are doing as a mic program, mic activities. So let me.
Dr. Naresh, can you make it full screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
There? Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the mic site in Nepal. Mic site in Nepal. Supernova National Park is the mic site, and it was established in 1976 with an area of 305 square kilometers. Later, it's extended its buffer zone, including 242 square kilometers more. And it lies in the southwest corner of the Nepal, and the park is bordering to India in the south and in the west. And as our Haribhadra sir mentioned, that is a very small area, and we have been sending a mic information from this particular area only. So the result is, inside the mic site, there is no killing of elephant, no death of the elephant. However, 3 elephants died just in the Kanchanpur district, that's next to the Suklafata National Park, and 8 in the entire Western Elephant Range, that is at least in the past 15 years. Likewise, there are so many human casualties in Kanchanpur district. Casualty means death and the injuries also. There are 8 casualties in the Kanchanpur district, just next to the mic site, but 43 casualties in the entire elephant range state. When I'm talking about the elephant Western range state, that's the 5 districts, the green, the gray, the blue area. This is the one population, in fact. These are the elephants. They're using the Suklafata. They're using all entire this. They go to the Katania Guide Wildlife Sanctuary, Dudwa, and it's maybe most probably they are from the Rajaji and Corbett National Park from this side. So this is, we are talking about the entire wild elephant population, not just in the mic site one. So Mike, what I want to say that the mic site is a small portion, may not represent the entire elephant population. Because of that, we are not getting the information what we actually wants to get from this mic project. So we need to extend actually the mic site to the entire Western population. At least here I'm talking about Western population only. Later I will tell you about Nepal elephant population. I'm speaking about the Western population. So let's try extending the mic site from Kanchanpur to the one population, and we really need to work throughout the Nepal. When we say the Western population, it includes Kanchanpur district, Kairali district, Bardia district, and Baki district. And this also includes Suklafata National Park, the present mic site, and the Bardia National Park, where Haribhadra sir mentioned that most of the conflict human-elephant conflict exists. So when we say the elephants of Nepal, I say before, when Nepal prepared our first elephant conservation action plan in 2008, at that time, we thought that we have 4 subpopulation elephants. No research has been done, just an expert opinion only. The eastern population, Japa, Baundagi area to the Koshitapu Wildlife Reserve. Then the central population include the Chitwan and Parsa complex, and the western population is Bardia to Kailali district, and the far western population is the Suklafata and part of the Kailali district. But in 2016 to 20, the Ashok Ram, one of my students, he's still doing the research on the elephant. He came up with this. There are no 4 subpopulations. We just have 2 populations. One population, eastern population, it is from Kositapu, from Baundagi, Japa to the Persha Chiton area, and the other population from Dang district to the Shuklafata or Kanchanpur area. You can see these 3 districts. It's a gap. It's a big, gap, big, settlement in this area. They completely separated our population into 2 subpopulations. Actually, it used to be 1 population before, and the elephant from Japa can move and come out from the Suklapata, but because of all this cities development and all this, the infrastructure development, urbanization, the population is completely fragmented now. So currently, there's a rough estimated. In 2008, we used to say that we have 109 to 142 elephants in 19 districts, but presently in 2020, Ashok Ram came up with only in 10 districts, he came up with 227 elephants. So it proves that the elephant number is increasing, not remarkably, but it is increasing in Nepal, and most probably is from India, migrated from India, or they just go to India, come back to India. That's why this information also shows the importance of the transboundary collaboration between India and Nepal. So major threat is also already mentioned in Haribhadra also. The habitat loss and fragmentation I've shown in the map also. It's a very, very big threat, because this, even in a small population and a small country, the population is now segregated into subpopulations. I don't see any chance to mix up these 2 populations, because in Indian side, there are big settlement, and in Nepal side also settlement. So especially in this migration corridor, this is really, really a big threat. And the linear infrastructure, of course, is a very big challenge coming up, because the Asian highway from east-west highway is Asian highway. Now the government is planning to expand those Asian highways into 4-lane and 5-lane. The work has already been begun. And beside that, as Haribhadra said, there is a proposed railways from east to west. And that these railways and the road expansion definitely, fragmented more the elephant population in Nepal, and definitely, and this will increase the conflict situation. So in conflict with community, as Haribhadra said, there are many conflicts in community, and when we did one research, it comes the elephant is the #1 conflict, species between human and the wildlife. So there are some threat of disease also. Elephant TB is most prominent. Many, domestic elephant has elephant TB, and we still need to work on the wild elephant. We still don't know. And even the herpes virus is also one of the big threat to the elephant, because there are so domestic elephant, there are the wild elephant, and they are mixing, they are going to the forest, and that's why. And the other big things coming up is retaliated killing. Haribhadra says just 2 poaching, but we do have many retaliated killing of elephants. And in human elephant conflict, everybody knows, it's quite obvious that in many low-income countries like Nepal, human wildlife conflict adversely affect the well-being of community, as is mainly by crop race and property damage and the human safety. You know, and the map here, I'm showing the recent data. We have been collecting the recent incident of human-elephant conflict-prone area in the Eastern Nepal with these two subpopulations, Eastern Nepal and Western Nepal. They are the major, mostly in this Suklafata area, Bardia area, and the Chittagong area, and the Baundagi Jhapa, and some migratory corridors. These are the conflict-prone area, conflict events we have recorded in Nepal. And the human death, last 15 years, this data is up to the 2018. There were 197 human deaths in the last 15 years in Nepal. But if you see the Western population, Bardia is 35 and Kanchanpur 2. So the Bardia Jhapa is the number one, as Haribhadra Sir said, and our Ashia said, Jhapa is the number one. But if Bardia comes next to the Jhapa, so it's the population, the conflict is most prone in the Bardia and other places, Chittagong also. But this is outside the backside. So we really need to consider the conflict issue also within because our priority is conflict in the mic sites also. So elephant attack is annually 28% attack, that is 67% of the 28 attack is mostly by the solitary wolves. And mostly the attacks happen in the farmland and outside the protected areas, not inside the protected area, but most of the cases is outside the protected area. And similarly, the elephant retaliatory killing since the last 15 years, the same time frame data. So Java, definitely yes, the 5 elephants we lost of retaliatory killing. And then after that, Bardia, Udaipur, the migratory corridor, and Kanchanpur, Sunsari, Kailani. Altogether, we lost 21 elephants in retaliatory killing in the Nepal, and out of which the 8 was in Western population, where I'm more focusing right now. So HGC mitigation, the government is prepare elephant conservation action plan, which just expired in 2018. Now we are preparing a next elephant conservation action plan for 10 years. It's already, lots of the work has been done, but we still need to finalize this. Most probably this year we'll finalize this conservation action plan, where we give up, emphasis on prevention, preventive method, mitigative method, and some relief program from government and other agencies. Likewise, this is the traditional method of conflict mitigation. Local mitigation measure, as a drumming, firecrackers, all local sort of thing. They have been practicing still now, and some government and other conservation partners, because they are doing lots of awareness campaigns, the solar electric fences. You've seen some different kind of, this is the solar electric fences we use in Jhapa, Baundagi area. It's just tilted one, and we do have other kind of electric fences, and this, simple pipe fencing. And there is early warning system, beehives, and traditional, this machan things. This all sort of thing we have been using to mitigate the human-elephant conflict. However, still, we have to hear, this hot news that 47 people have been killed in Jhapa, and 8 elephants have been lost, 500 houses partially damaged, 50 houses destroyed, something. This sort of news we need to hear every then and every time. That's why I come up with this idea: who is responsible for that, human or elephant? Let's correctly point. Nakul sir correctly pointed out that it's not always a human. Elephant is the human. So we really don't have information an actual cause that leads to the human casualty happening. We just said that cropped up depredation and this and that, but why it is happening? We really need to know this. So we did a study in Western populations, Shukla Bardia in 2017, and we tried to explore the root cause of casualty related conflict to think from different perspective of management rather than conventional and always blaming the elephant is the culprit. So Karki, one of my students, and I did this study in the Western population. That's the Suklafata and Bardia, mostly focusing on these two areas. And we collected data from last 5 years, just March 2012 to the March 17, only the incident of human casualty, not looking after the crop depredation, because it will be a big task. So just to initiate, we just collected this casualty-related data, and we did some questionnaire survey with the victim family and focus group and key information survey. Besides that, we did a situation analysis of the incident site. We just tried to find out the people where this casualty happened, where it is happening, what time it is happening, the state of the person, the distance from the forest, and what activity, what the person is doing when he got charged by the elephant. All this sort of information we collected, and we come up with, human death and injury has increased over the 5 years during this period. So maybe elephant is increasing. The total elephant of attack resulted 60% in death and 39% in injuries. So I mean, more people dying with the attack than the injury. So out of 28 human casualty, 20 casualties occur in the Bardia and 8 casualties occur in Suklafata, and 4 death, 4 injury. So in Bardia, 2 elephants were killed in retaliation, electrocution, and now in Shukla over study period. But recently, after the study period, 1 elephant was killed in Kanchanpur district by electrocution. So, it's just outside the mic. So when I'm collecting data from Mike's side, we're not getting all this information. That's why we are proposing with Aditya, when he was working here with Ishwar. So we just propose that, we really need to think in the whole population level, not based on the site level. So based on this situation analysis, we come up with the conclusion that 75% of the conflict is due to the human negligence and ignorance. I do have the parameter for what is the human negligence, what is the human ignorance, and only 77% of the incident was elephant, cause, and 18% is just the accident. So we come up with the conclusion that most of the casualty-related incident is because of human negligence and human ignorance. And single male was responsible for most of the incident, and only 25% of human casualty were due to the attack of herd. So 7% of the casualty were due to the unknown elephant, either attack or single male or the herd, this unknown. So majorly single male and the human negligence, single male and the human injury and negligence is major, cause for this major consequence of this human-elephant conflict in casualties. So the conclusion study is how human negligence and low level of public awareness on elephant behavior and ecology are the main cause for the increasing chain of human casualty. And increasing awareness and understanding of elephant ecology and behavior help to reduce conflict-prone encounter and ultimately to reduce the casualty-related conflict. And by focusing only on behavior, human behavior, to changing the human his attitude to negligence and keeping them awareness can reduce markedly this casualty-related conflict. And with this conclusion, I know we have Ayush in India, Ayush in Nepal, and news in India. I've seen the Ajanta madam is also here participating, and one local NGO in Bardia. We develop a proposal. We mainly trying to focus the change in human attitude towards the elephant and reduce the the casualty-related incident to some level. And we have already granted this project. Now we are in implementing phase. It's just a small project, piloting a certain area only, one in Bardia and some part of the Chittagong in Nepal and India. Also, the news and the Asian India is working on it. And we look after all this transboundary movement and transboundary conflict-related issue also. This is so far we have achieved out of this study. And Mike's effort since 2018, we have this orientation workshop for Park and Divisional Forest Office. Here now we move beyond the existing park site. We now taking a whole Western range population. We have collected the data of killing and conflict Not only the elephant, we are also collecting the data from the all other mega species like tiger, rhino, and all this sort of thing. And all this Divisional Forest Office, park, we agree to use this Mike standard format. The Kanban decision, Aditya knows very well. We have compiled all those data in that format. And we also agreed to conduct a training workshop on data management, conflict mitigation, and elephant in that orientation workshop. And from Mike, we supported the two desktop computers, 3 motorbikes, and almost 35 bicycles and GPS to the entire elephant landscape, not in one of the Mike's side. We are supporting those elephants in Bake, Bagdia, Palwanpur, Kailali, Kanchanpur, and the 3 other protected area to collect those data for elephant conflict, not only elephant, but with other mega animal also. Besides, we did this lake assessment for Shuklabhata National Park only, because we really need to do this lake assessment throughout the western population area. We collected the data on 8 kill of elephant and other mega species, tiger, rhino, including leopard, and also collected the data for human wildlife conflict. I have shown some of the data sheet and other thing. And one important thing, as Scott said, after this master class in Bangkok, and with the help of Aditya and Vishnu in India office, we also conducted an introductory master class on elephant ecology and conservation in Thakudara, Bardia, and most of the participants are the divisional forest officers and the park staffs. It was really nice. Same Ahimsa was involved in this course. It's the 4 days master class we conducted, and it was well appreciated. And we just are now doing the follow-up of this training course. I'm getting very good feedback, and also other forest officers are demanding that we need to continue this kind of course in Nepal to aware, actually, not only the people, to aware the forest worker also, especially the divisional forest officers. They are much more into the production forest than the wildlife conservation, and they are really interested, and they are demanding us to conduct this sort of course to other people also. And therefore the further action is we will continuously collecting Mike standard data, and we need to analyze the data and the SPHEC in that particular area. And as I said, the refreshment training of elephant ecology to the entire frontline staff need to do, and pilot the mitigation measure that change in human behavior toward the elephant. We have started in small scale. With this result, I think we really like to change the way of dealing human wildlife conflict. Whenever we say the human elephant conflict, we always come about erecting electric fences, trains, and the siren, this and that only. But until and unless we change the human behavior, it will not going to happen control. So I strongly believe that by changing the human behavior, we can control the conflict-related issue, the casualty-related issue by 50 to 60% in that area. And finally, we still need technical and financial support. And we know we are talking about erecting electric fences. For erecting electric fences also, we need support from outside. And then what about the maintenance? We also need the support for maintenance. So that's the one reason why I came to conclusion that we need to think this from different perspective than the conventional way of dealing the human elephant conflict. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pradhan, for that very comprehensive overview of the elephant distribution, elephant behavior, and human behavior across Nepal, and particularly in the Western Nepal, where we have our Mike sites. And there's some excellent points made by you, particularly the landscape approach to looking at elephants. Of course, elephants are a landscape species, the emerging threats coming from linear infrastructure, for example, the fact that there is a lot of transboundary movement between India and Nepal, and therefore there is that need for collaboration. So these are all very important issues, and thank you for highlighting them. I'd now like to ask Mr. Thingley Wangdi, Chief Forestry Officer of Samse Forest Division in Bhutan, to make his presentation. Please, sir, go ahead.
Is my presentation visible?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aditya and Dr. Saxena and Ms. Aban, Scott, and other colleagues, seniors, for giving me opportunity to speak on, to give you some overview and challenges in human-wildlife conflict in Divisional Forest Office Samse. Of course, Samse is a mic site. So this is the outline of my presentation. So before I go into the details of my presentation, I thought I would introduce GFO Samse to, I think most of the panelists, the participants out here may not know where Samse is actually located geographically. So Samse is located in southwestern corner of the country. So it's bordering with the West Bengal, Sikkim, and we have a total area of about 1,309 square kilometer, and we have about 15 blocks, people, about 60 to 70,000 people living inside our area. And we have a total porous border stretch of about 207 kilometer, which, where the elephant can actually frequently visit and go out. So as we are pointing out that it is a transboundary species. So this point is very important for us to keep in mind that, when we do whatever kind of mitigation measures and activities towards mitigating human-elephant conflict, I think we have to keep in mind the kind of the porous border we have. And also, it is not that only Samse has the elephant in Bhutan. So the other map shows that all of the southern belt of Bhutan is frequented and, have a frequent visitation of elephants into the country, and people face human-elephant conflict in a different magnitude. So in Samse, we have tried to do some kind of hotspot mapping to see which are the. So as I said, in my area in DFO Samse, we have about 15 blocks. We have a district and it is divided into 15 blocks. So out of the 15 blocks, almost 10 out of 15 blocks are actually, have some kind of HEC problems being faced by the people. So most of the hotspots actually is in one of the block called Tashicholing. You will see in the map, the red dots shows the kind of, the seriousness of the problem of the human-elephant conflict being faced by the people. So if you see, we try to even see, where these elephants are actually. In Bhutan, we actually don't have the resident, 99.9% is, I think, migratory elephants that are coming, especially in Samse, 100% of the elephants are coming from the border areas. Like we have Gorumara National Park, which is less than actually 20 kilometers aerial distance, and we have Chapramari Wildlife Sanctuary. Then we have a border, Aldapara National Park. So those are the origin of the elephants that are being, coming into Bhutan, and they stay about, I think almost now it has become like earlier, in the past it was during the cropping season. They used to come, raid crops, create problems, and they go back. But now I think we are experiencing almost throughout throughout the year, we are getting elephants coming into Bhutan and creating some problem to people and the structures. So now it is, I think, more and more elephants are coming into Bhutan, and the gravity of the problem is getting serious. And in the fall, the elephant comes up to Bhutan, and then banana, betel nut, and also maize, and also they create damages to the electric transmission poles, houses, and paddy fields. And these are some of the damages being caused by elephants, and the loss being faced by the community living in the area. So in terms of trend, we have tried to even about 5 years trend. So in our case, I think some of the cases are not being reported since I think there is no incentives being provided from the government side or from the project. So that's why people, I think, tend not to report the cases. So whatever we could, I think, record, we have translated into this table form. And I think if you see like the year 1920 has been, I think the elephant has visited in terms of incidences, 155 incidences, translating into, economic loss of about 20 million rupees or nutrams that is incurred to the farmers. So which is, I think, for a marginal farmers, I think it is huge, and the gravity is very serious. So we need to do something. And also in terms of human death in 1920, I think there was a casualty. Elephant hit one woman and then got killed instantly. And also in last year in 2020, we had also an elephant accidental death, which fall from one of the cliff and spot. The elephant was dead on the spot. So we have submitted report in the mic. So these are some of the informations in terms of human-elephant conflict trend in the mic site. So now we try to look at try to understand why there is a human-elephant conflict being happening in the GFC. So we concluded that the habitat degradation, because as I said, we have 207 kilometers of porous border stretch that we are sharing, and most of the elephant habitat, which is in Gorumara, Jaldapara, and the Chapramari, comes up, into Bhutan, and then so that's why if you see the habitat on the border, I think it is very evident that there is not much of the habitat. It's all degraded on both almost both the sides. The habitat is degraded, fragmented because of unplanned settlement and developmental activities. Also the shrinkage of available habitat due to plantation and other tea plantation and other developmental activities. So that has actually led to elephant coming frequently into Bhutan and going back to India. And also the probable increase in elephant population could be the reason why the increasing number of the human-elephant interface or conflicts happening in the area. And also the people becoming intolerant, and I think people, when they lose their the cash crops and their livelihood to the elephant, I think people become intolerant, and then they they resort to maybe shooting and also hurting elephants through some metals, hitting by metals, and also which may ultimately, I think, may lead to a serious accidents to the elephant. And in Devosamsi, of course, we also got some funding support from Mike, but we have the mic. I think the mic was discontinued, or it has remained inconsistent for so long. So only in 2019 to 20, we got some funding, and after the pandemic, we couldn't do much. So still then, DFOSAMC has been doing some of the mitigation measures to help farmers and to make elephant and people coexist. So construction of physical barriers. Of course, I think these are some of the technology that has been developed and by many other Asian regions, solar powered electric fencing, construction of dry border walls. And also we tried to plant biofence, agave plantation we have done. But I think because of the discontinuity in funding and also the lack of people support, as well as the funding support, I think it has not been really successful. And also the DFOSAMC has done habitat improvement in terms of water holes creation. And we have also done enrichment plantation, bamboo, and also some mixed hardwood species to provide refuge to the elephant. And from the mic project, mic support, we have installed early warning system called sound alert system to deter elephant away and to make people aware that during the night, I think some even elephants or some other animals coming into their field, they can trigger the sensor and then have alarms so that they can go and try to look out for what animals has visited their cropland. So in order to help them, have a peaceful kind of sleep, so we have installed a sound alert system with the help of mic. And it has, in the beginning, it has, I think it has really helped people as per the feedback that we received from the people, the community around. I think it's successful, but then because it's a technology and the technology comes with a lot of, you need to have capacity, you need to have spare parts. So because of the pandemic, I think it didn't really, work after the pandemic because many of the spare parts got damaged and we couldn't get the replacement. As well as I think there was a plan for people and the field staff to send for this, the maintenance, sound equipment system maintenance training, but then it couldn't happen because of the pandemic. So that's where I think technology, of course, the innovation works, but sometimes because of this requirement, it doesn't, really help. But I think we have, we can, after the pandemic, I think we can really revive and make it work. And also the installation of siren to deter the elephant away from their cropland. And also the divisional forests through funding support from various donor agencies have helped them to build watchtowers to look for the elephant, and then they can deter away the elephant during the night. And in terms of capacity development, the DFOSAMC has been helping them regularly whenever we get funding support from the donor fund. So we provide them with, we conduct regular meeting and awareness, as well as, and also form the quick response team to during the night, whenever they have the elephant, they get the elephant, they come together and then they, they just go and then chase the elephant away. So we have done the regular sensitization, and also we have developed a bylaws and specifying what their roles are and what the roles of our division and what are the kinds of supports that we can provide to them. So these are some of the things we have done in terms of capacity building, as well as I think our field colleagues got opportunity to go to Bangkok and some other trainings from the MIC and IUCN program to improve their capacity in managing, understanding the ecology, understanding the technology being used in human-wildlife, human-elephant conflict management. And also, of course, with Mike's support, we have also provided some searchlight, gumboots, and the rain field gears, so that people during the night, I think they come out and they can have some sort of incentives, so that people we keep them motivated. Otherwise, I think as I said, like if we don't take people into the forefront, I think it doesn't really work. Whatever we do, I think it becomes useless. So that's why I think we have to keep people motivated. That's why we have provided. So last year, with the support of Mike, I think we have supported 25 sets of gumboots, searchlights to the QRT teams. So from whatever we did in GFO Samsi, I think the key lessons that we have learned from HSC management is aggressive engagement of local community in HSC management. As I said, like I think if we don't take community and the neighbor community into consideration and collaborate with them from the very beginning, I think whatever technology, whatever we do becomes actually useless if we don't get the required support from the public. So as Dr. Scott was mentioning, I think the human element of the human-elephant conflict, I think we need to understand the human behavior, human ecology, their sentiments, their belief. So those are the things I think we need to keep in mind, and then really, bring them in the forefront to mitigate the human-elephant conflict. And also the appropriate technology, appropriate integration of technology and habitat management based on exhaustive research findings. So I think we need to, before we implement anything, I think we need to have the scientific findings and research done, so that whatever the solutions, that mitigation measures that we provide become sustainable in future. Otherwise, I think without holistic approach and understanding the ecology, technology, it doesn't, I think it seems like it is not really helping us to mitigate the human-elephant conflict. And also the implementation of proper land use planning and strict implementation. I think it has become evident that because of the unplanned, the land, there's no proper planning of land. So in the middle of the jungle, the habitats, I think we provide land substitute for the people, and suddenly it falls into the corridor of the elephant, and then that's where I think conflict becomes severe. So that's why I think we need to have the land use planning, proper land use planning, and we need to implement that strictly. Otherwise, I think there's no point doing habitat management, technological interventions, or without having this land use. I think what I feel is this land use planning should be the main, the mitigation or the solutions that we need to look at. And landscape level HSC management strategies and interventions. Basically, I think we need to enhance the transboundary coordination and cooperation as the species, landscape level species. It comes, doing something on one side really doesn't help if if there's no landscape level planning and the transboundary kind of the coordination and cooperation. And also the continuity of financial support for capacity building and essential infrastructures like, of course, the physical barriers. I think these are in order to make effective HEC management, so we need to have a continuous funding. Otherwise, I think we do something, and then when we do not have the funds, it really doesn't help. And also the radical policy intervention and execution based on long-term scientific information. I think we need to do really, some kind of population study, and then see like how, in terms of the capacity, homes, and the carrying capacity, we need to do study, and then we come out with some policy interventions to keep it at the threshold, population level, and make use of for ecotourism or something like that. So finally, the way forward for human-elephant conflict management, we could see is technology integration and upscaling. So because we innovate some technology, but it doesn't become successful because we fail in the middle. So that's why I think we need to have continuity, and we need to scale up example, in Samsi, we have done that sound alert system. So we are doing it, and then based on the findings, of course, it is just 1 year of the activity we have carried out. We are not sure whether this is successful or not, but the preliminary findings showed that it is helping. So after the pandemic, I think we need to scale up and also the establishment of local technology innovation center to promote, because if you see, even in the local, I think there's many local kind of technology coming up to manage the human-elephant conflict. So those kind of technology, the local technology, indigenous technology, has to be recorded and then documented, and then they need to there's a need to have a center so that they share their technology, and then it can scale up. And also strengthen community engagement and spend participation in human-elephant management. So I think, as I said, we need to keep people motivated. So that's why I think the supply of safety gears to QRT forestry staff for regular monitoring, and also the support, then facility exchange visit nearby. I think we need to have regular exchange to the well-managed human-elephant conflict areas, so that people, get the sense of how they are managing and what kind of technology is being used in other areas. So that can be actually the technology get transferred into other areas for successful management of human-elephant conflict. And the research is the key. Actually, research is key for strategic policy direction and program implementation. We, I think, need to, of course, there is research being done by many experts, but still, I think, still there is a need to strengthen research on movement ecology of elephant habitat, spatial, distribution, movement monitoring. So we need to regularly monitor elephant of their movement from which area to which area, so that we can have strategic then also the proper land use planning, as I said, should be done. And the transboundary collaboration is the key, actually. I think, doing something in one area and, not looking at other side of the area will not really help, because same level of understanding has to be there, and same level of, the support should be provided. And same level of this land use planning should be there from both the sides. Otherwise, I don't think it will really, help us in mitigating the human-elephant conflict. So lastly, I think we can strengthen transboundary collaboration and coordination between the protected areas and the divisional forest offices in the region. So finally, I think if we can do all these things, I think we can really, I think, come up with effective human-elephant conflict management strategies. So thank you. Over to you, Aditya.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wangdi, for a very comprehensive overview of the situation, particularly in Samsi, in Bhutan. And I really like the sort of the focus that you have there on putting the community at the center of all activities related to human-wildlife conflict. And that's really particularly important. I mean, it's important in all aspects, but it's particularly important when you are having innovations and innovative ways of doing things. For those to be sustained, you need to have the community convinced of the importance of it. And of course, the importance of funding, continuity in funding. Without that, it's really hard for things to go forward. And that's something that's a really important point that you've made there. So with this, we move on to the panel discussion part of the day, where essentially we're going to open up the floor to more people who are interested. And so there's also an opportunity to ask questions of our speakers earlier today. And so to sort of set the stage for that, I'd like to request Mr. Haribhadra Acharya to sort of talk a little bit more in detail about the issues of human-elephant conflict, what are the ways forward, and how we could sort of, address this very huge problem.
Thank you. Please, Wangraji. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good afternoon again. Is the slide shown in your other screens?
Yes, Azaji.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just need, oh yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon again. I would like to give a small presentation on the human-elephant conflict and the other management challenges in Nepal. Yeah, this is the population of elephants in Nepal. The habitat is especially on the lower side, near the border of India. More concentration of the elephant population is in the eastern side and in the western side. There are 232 wild elephants, and there are two populations. One is in eastern population and other in the western. And we are now implementing the MIC program in this area. This is in Kanchanpur district, Shuklabhata National Park. And last year, we have a meeting in Bardia National Park with the IUCN India, and we have discussed to rethink about the MIC site, because this Shuklabhata area is very small area, and while reporting to the MIC in CITES, the illegal killing reports, the data in this area is almost negligible because of the small area representation. So the movement of the elephant is over these locations, this region that includes Bardia National Park and Banke National Park also. So we have proposed to include the area from Kanchanpur district to Banke. But still, how to include and decide this area is still in the same position. But we are now reporting of this area only. The common challenges of habitat degradation that I already expressed in my previous presentation also in the opening ceremony. We have a common type of issues or challenges, like in Indian border side, especially eastern side of Japa, Mechi River, and in the far western in Mahakali area near the Kanchanpur district. We have trans-border issues of migration of elephants between India and Nepal. The human-elephant conflict area especially resides in the Tarai region of Nepal, because there is no more elephants habitat in the mountain and upper areas of Nepal. Total population and the representing from the Bardia is the most populated area in Nepal, and Kanchanpur, the second, and then Parsa. In Jhapa, there is only 10 residential elephant, but the seasonal migration exists from Indian side to Jhapa, especially during the crop production season. These are some retaliation and poaching. Some pictures, especially 2 poachings was recorded in the last 15 years period, and retaliation is very big issue in Nepal because there are many settlements and new settlements in the corridor of the elephant. Yeah, I'm sorry. Other program is also parallelly going on, the workshop. So some disturbance you are hearing, I think. For mitigation measures, we use different methods, different approaches. Some are permanently constructed fences, and some temporary type of machans or watchtowers. Local community also themselves construct some towers like this to watch in the agriculture field. This is the best practice adopted in Nepal. We have wildlife damage relief guideline. The damage maybe human casualties or damage of houses, crop raiding. They are compensated by providing some relief funds to the victims. We have few personnels trained to respond quickly to rescue the wild animals and the response to the damages by the wildlife. But this is not enough because due to the successful protection measures in Nepal, the wildlife population, especially elephant, rhino, tiger, they are increasing, and we are now facing more conflicts, especially human and elephant conflicts all over the Nepal. In the lower Tarai area, we faced conflicts with human beings with elephants, rhino, tigers, but in the upper sides, in the mountain region, there is a big issue of conflict with leopard and human being. Awareness is a continued program, and different kind of fencing is practiced in Nepal. Solar fencing in some areas are very successful, but in most of the part, these solar fences are not working and are not so effective. Bio fences are also practiced. Other measures, long-term measures like habitat management and just participating the local communities in habitat restoration in the vicinity of the protected areas. We include buffer zone communities also for habitat management, especially in buffer zone forest areas. Signpost, hoarding boards, and other signages are also put in over the roads in the community areas. We have elephant conservation action plan. Now it is under revision for the period. It was initially prepared for a period of 10 years. Now we are now in the process of revision. The best practices that I want to share is from Bardia National Park. We use different approaches to mitigate the human-elephant conflict, because most of the conflict exists in the nearby areas of Bardia National Park. Some of the approaches are siren and alarming system, SMS, automatic SMS in the mobile of local communities. Cooperatives are also established to address the income generation activities for the poor communities residing in the buffer zone areas. Also, some allowances are provided to the widows and disabilities. School buses for students are also provided, because these areas are very prone to the elephants habitat, elephants, and so students are provided school buses and supported for school buses. Scholarships are also provided. Temporary jobs are also provided to the community members from the victimized houses, and alternative cropping like mentha, chamomile, lemon grasses are also practiced in the elephant conflicted areas. This is a good practice we have in Bardia. These are some signages for awareing the drivers in the roadside. And way forwards, we are now thinking to develop a different project, especially focusing on elephant conservation. That includes the all range in the Tarai, where there are different protected area systems as well as the forests outside the protected area. And we have to include the local governments as well, especially to address and respond to the human-elephant conflicts. We need to involve all the stakeholders. As in Nepal, we have a newly established system of central government, provincial government, and the local government system, as the state is restructured last 4 years before. That's why we have to involve the local government as well, because they have budget, but they don't have idea to conserve the wildlife. That's why this idea may include all the stakeholders, and we can work in integrated and multidisciplinary approach. In future, there are many kind of linear infrastructures under construction in this elephant habitated area. So this project seeks to include the support from all the stakeholders. This must be the project in the future in Nepal. And establishment of rescue center. The protected areas are like islands, and they cannot bear all the population of elephants, and this population might have conflict in the vicinity of the protected area. So in such cases, we have to rescue some elephants and maybe translocate. Still, we don't have any practice of translocation of elephants in Nepal, but we know this is practiced in other countries like Sri Lanka or maybe in India also. So this concept should be internalized in our case also, because due to the increase in the elephants population, we are now facing each year the conflict of elephants in the human in the Tarai, and livelihood improvement. Many poor communities they are residing in the newly settled areas in the Tarai, especially in last few years. They were migrated from the hills or some flooding areas to the newly converted forest converted areas in the Tarai, where the area was used as corridor from the past by the elephants. And now the new kind of conflict is increased because the population in the protected area, because of our successful protection measures, the wildlife population is increased on the one hand, and also the local community they are migrating from the other parts to the same area by converting the forest into agriculture crops, and they are newly settled in those areas. So this is the big challenge for us to respond to the human-elephant conflicts promptly. The number of conflicts might increase in future. And awareness, our local community or educate the community people, especially how to respond to the elephant when the elephants enter into the agriculture field or they enter into the community areas. They have to know how to behave to the elephants. But the big problem for us is that big crowd is gathered to, but they don't know how to control the elephants. But they try to infrastructures as a wildlife friendly manner. We need to develop some guidelines or manuals and provide those guidelines to the infrastructure institutions, development institutions like Department of Roads or Department of Irrigation or Department of Rails. We are now preparing some manuals, but they need to be approved from the government, and it is under the process of approval. And if we mainstream those manuals or guidelines or standards while planning new linear infrastructures, it would be beneficial to the human being as well as the wildlife. We need to practice underpasses or overpasses in our case also in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Acharya, for the overview of the situation in Nepal, particularly with respect to human-elephant conflict. And this is clearly a very, it's a very difficult problem faced by all the range states. And it's good to be aware of all the issues that are there, whatever is happening in the different parts of the elephant range. I'd now like to sort of open the floor up for questions from the various people for our presenters today. If there's any particular questions you have on any of these presentations, any points that you would like to make, any comments, now's your chance. You can raise your hand or you can just directly unmute yourself and talk as well. Any questions, comments? Okay. So what I'd like to do is sort of sum up a few of the important points that I think Shering's trying to say something. Shering's on.
Oh, hi. Yeah, Aditi, thank you.
Yeah, hi.
Actually, I had some few points that I wanted to put up for discussion. Not necessarily to the presenters, because both the presenter from Nepal and Bhutan presented the status of my program, then about the problems they are facing with regard to human-elephant conflict and other elephant conservation program in their mic side. So the point that I wanted to float for discussion is more relevant to the mic program.
Just 1 minute, sorry to our intervention. Aditya, we have also Mr. Tashi Dorji, program coordinator from Kailash Landscape, Transboundary Landscape. So it was a last minute invite. So I think his comments also there.
Sure, absolutely.
So once Ms. Sharing is conclude, then you can invite him.
Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to know, or maybe we could discuss, is what will be the fate of the MIC program once the funding support from EU is over? So every time there's a funding support, the MIC program goes on for like few years. Then after some time, when the funding is over, then the program remains dormant. So for now, I wanted to know if like whether the support would continue once the EU funding support is over, or has the MIC Secretariat already have planned something ahead? And the second point is for Bhutan, we have always wanted to expand our mic site. I'm sure I mentioned it earlier, and in the previous mic meeting also, we did mention that we always wanted to expand the mic site in Bhutan, because for now, Samsi is just one site for Bhutan. And like I mentioned earlier, it has comparatively less elephant population compared to the other parts of Bhutan, and this may not be the representative of the elephant population in the country. So we hope to expand the site and wanted to know if MIC program could consider inclusion of additional site from Bhutan. And lastly, I think both the presenter from Nepal and Bhutan, we mentioned that one of the challenges is also the transboundary issues related to human-elephant conflict, and also some conservation challenges related to elephant program. So wanted to know if Mike could help us to look into enhancing transboundary collaboration in elephant conservation, and also resolving transboundary issues, especially mitigating human-elephant conflict. I guess the presenter from Nepal also did mention that there are movement of elephant across the two countries, which is like leading to increased conflict in like any of the countries. So I wanted to know if Mike could also like intervene and support the migrant countries in solving these transboundary issues. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Yeah, all three very valid points, sharing. One is the issue of transboundary support. The other is the long-term financing, which again, Mr. Wangdi had also raised. It's a very important issue. And then there's the whole issue of looking at elephants as a landscape species rather than of, particular dots on the map. I don't think we have anyone from the Mike Secretariat here today, but perhaps I could ask Dr. Saxena to sort of provide his inputs on how he thinks the program could move forward in the future.
Yeah, sharing, you have raised a very valid point. And I think in various forums and discussions, we support your views for extension of the Mike sites, and that has been highlighted again and again. And I will be sharing this certainly with the Mike Secretariat people, because I think Thea, she will be joining with us in subsequent webinars. And today, somehow neither Thea or Mrigesh could join. And from the regional office also, I think they are also of the view that the program can be modified, which Ms. Aban also in her remarks highlighted and stressed the need to integrate the key learnings from this project and then to continue it further. So we also have to look forward for future program development and also look for the support for the appropriate donor agencies. Probably if you comes forward, it's very fine. But today, you representative was also here in the opening session. And I think in the next webinar, which we have, I think on 18th, you are most welcome to join. And that time from the Mike Secretariat people, we can make your intervention, and we will also be certainly communicating with them your concerns. Thank you very much. Yeah, Aditya, you can invite Mr.
Yeah,
Tashi.
Mr. Tashi Dorji, would you like to provide your inputs?
Yes, please. Sure. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I was trying to... The light just went off. No, what a coincidence in my office. Anyway, this is what happens with technology. But if you can hear me, I think that's good enough. Let me try to reach out. Let me also take this out. Okay. So good afternoon, Dr. Aditya and Dr. Saxena. Thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to speak on this platform. Am I audible, Dr. Aditya? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Dr. Tashi?
Haju? Can you? Okay. Yeah. Can you? Okay. Can you see me?
We can see you as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So as introduced, I am the coordinator for Kanchenjunga Landscape Conservation and Development Initiative, which is a part of transboundary landscape within ICIMOD, which Dr. Nakul presented earlier. And I want to make this brief talk using with one map that I wanted to share. I hope it works. Okay. Can you see the map on the screen? Hello. Can you see the map on the screen? Okay.
Yeah, I can see.
So this is the project area of Kanchenjunga Landscape, coordinated by ICIMOD, in which I am the coordinator. So this is 25,000 square kilometer and 7.2 million population residing in this landscape. And in the Nepalese side, we have 4 districts: Taplejong, Panchtar, Ilam, and Jaffa. We have heard quite a lot about Jaffa today. In the Indian side, it's Skim State, and also Darjeeling, Kalimpong, and a part of North Bengal, the Assam Duars, extending to whole this area. And also in the Bhutan side, we have 4 to 5 western districts actually, including Samsi, which my colleague Chinle has presented. So therefore, if you look at the landscape that we are talking about, I think we are pretty much in the elephant hotspot area. So Bhutan, India, and Nepal. And although I'm not an elephant expert, I'm a veterinarian by background, but I have some sense of what is happening here. So I think what we are talking about today between Nepal and Bhutan, where we don't have India being present, I think Indian station is coming later on. I think, we are talking about Jaffa here and Samsi here, and the elephants, I think traditionally my understanding is migrating. This is a corridor for elephant. And probably the issues that we have highlighted, of, probably in terms of rite of passage. I think somehow this is becoming quite clear, elephants are moving, but I guess one main issue is really we are impinging in their rite of passage, whether in terms of linear infrastructures, roads, irrigation channels, towns, cities, or settlements. I think that's become quite apparent in this area. And then also we have the other issues of, very, very hot spot, I think, issues of, collision of, train and elephant from this Indian landscape. It's a very, very sad stories coming up every year. Then, of course, because we are impinging on their traditional migration, then obviously, I guess, we are also limiting their habitat and the food base. Therefore, this migration, the transboundary migration to some extent, we are putting some restrictions, I think, in my view, when we talk of fencing and other mitigation measures. I guess these are quite a sensitive topic, but then in a way, we're also limiting their migration. So whether that is a good practice or not is for all of us, I think, to discuss and debate. And therefore, I think these issues of conflict arises. So I guess this is the real issue out here and quite apparent in this landscape. And as a part of Kanchenjunga landscape in an easy mode, of course, we have not been able to do much, but it's pretty much in our agenda, and we are trying to provide this platform to our member countries, because Kanchenjunga landscape has a very, very long-term vision of almost 20 years. And the 3 member countries, Bhutan, India, and the government of Nepal has endorsed this long-term regional cooperation framework, and we have a vision till 2036. And probably it really provides, when you talk of transboundariness, I think it really provides a good platform to engage, put some collective efforts. And within this landscape, we have different thematic topics which has been prioritized by our member countries itself. For example, this landscape is a landscape of protected areas. We have 19 protected areas across these 3 countries. And therefore, corridors and connectivity has been considered as one of the very, very important topic by all the 3 countries. And we are trying to do something around those, corridors and connectivity. And probably this is also one long-term solution, probably, if we can really do science-based, bring the science and scientific rationales which our member countries are proposing. I guess this can provide as one of the long-term solutions. Ecotourism is another big topic, big agenda for us. And probably when you talk of livelihoods, corridors, connectivity, and protected areas, and also being a landscape full of rich cultural, culture, knowledge in the ethnic groups, and I think this really provides another, opportunity. And high altitude ecosystems, where we are talking really about yaks and rangeland, there's another dimension of conflict out there, I think, which is not relevant to this topic at the moment. And mountain farming systems, especially this landscape is based with agro-biodiversity, traditional knowledges, and a lot of niche products such as cardamom, which are vibrant, quite unique to this landscape. And also a lot of tea plantations, coffee plantations, some very, very niche, some are commercial. So all these are quite an important priority for this Kanchenjunga landscape. And I think in this landscape, if we work together, we already have a platform, and probably we can find a lot of synergy and convergence and try to resolve these complex issues together. So as a way forward, now what I wanted to make a few points out here is, I think ECMOT, we always engage in 3 domains, including science, policy, and practice. We call science, policy, and practice domains. Now here is a situation, I think, where we can focus science as well. And in terms of science, I can see a lot of documentation, so many, data, I think to extent up-to-date data also is being presented today. I think quite interesting. So how we make a meaningful use of this science, I think it will be a very, very good approach. And also, I guess we really need to see the well-being in terms of both ways, the well-being of our communities as well as the well-being from the wildlife point of view. Probably it's not only enough to talk to our communities, but also we need to learn how to talk to the elephant itself, how they feel and how are they being disturbed. So probably the kind of well-being perspective can also be brought into as a part of our knowledge generation, probably which is already being done, I guess. But if you can strengthen that part would be, I think, quite useful to bring both the perspectives, the livelihood as well as the ecosystems perspective together. Now, the other point around the practices is something which we cannot avoid it, because there is an issue on the ground. And I think as a development organizations or a research organization or whoever, as a major stakeholder who is having a stake in this, we cannot wait and see things unfolding in front of our own eyes. Therefore, even short-term strategies are quite crucial. And what I see being presented here, I think we have so many short-term strategies being put in place as immediate mitigation measures, whether it's a fencing or so many other tools and techniques have been presented. I guess we have to continue to engage that way as well. But at the same time, in terms of practice, we also need to look for long-term holistic engagement, probably in terms of transboundary scale as well. And the third one really is in terms of the policy angle. Unless we come together, I think the issue is right in front of us. I think the presenters have made it crystal clear. This needs a transboundary approach. In that perspective, ICIMOT, we have been able to bring our very, very senior officials from 3 countries together, and we had a meeting at Siliguri 2 years ago, actually, and they had a good set of recommendations, and we have not been able to follow up vigorously because this COVID also came into place and so many distractions came in between. But it's very much in our agenda, and it's already, the process have already initiated. And one of the recommendations was to form a high-level task force from all these 3 member countries, and we are able to initiate this process of forming task force. And ICIMOT will be happy to support this task force to have a meeting and also encourage them to have a field visits to all these hotspot sites, visit those hotspot sites, meet with the people, meet with the stakeholders, understand the realities, and we are requesting them to come out as a part of their terms of reference is to come out with a very, very holistic, doable action plans, whether it is a short-term, mid-term, or a long-term. And many things are already available, I understand, but how can we, as the 3 countries together, have a joint action plan? So that is the aspiration. So we are about to activate the task force members already in this current 5-year plan, and we're also putting that in the letter of agreement with our member countries for 2021. So that is another, I think, a platform that we have in front of us. Other thing that we really try to engage as a mandate for ICIMOT is this cross-learning of best practices and also capacity building in whatever forms it may come. So I think this is very important. We continue to provide that kind of opportunities for different stakeholders, right from the community to the policymakers, to come together in that perspective. I think the last but not the least is, again, I come back to this issue of corridors and connectivity. And this year, we have our senior colleagues, experts also, already engaged to really look at this possibility of connecting those dots here. I think we have a lot of when we say 19 protected areas, we also have wildlife sanctuaries and other reserve forests. How can we really, make an effort to connect it? It's a big question, and I understand very well, but I think some scientific rationale can be built in and try to connect those corridors, or through different ways of looking at it. I think it's not only for elephant, but it's also, I guess, here the key species happens to be elephant, but I think there are many more, I think, which we have also understood from our mapping studies, and also review studies, which Dr. Nakul presented earlier. So therefore, I think to move forward, these are the 3 points, that I wanted to emphasize. And I guess here's the opportunity. The Kanchenjunga landscape can play a platform, although we also do not come with a lot of resources. But I think if we put together, IUC and other stakeholders, and also with the support of member countries, if you can strengthen this platform and use this platform, probably I think 3 countries can really come out with some kind of a solution. I think quicker solution, I must say so, because both elephant as well as the communities are suffering on the ground. Thank you so much, Dr. Aditi.
Thank you, Mr. Dorji. That's a very, very nice map and a very nice explanation of the concepts there. In particular, when you look at that map, it just strikes you, right, how much of an transboundary issue this is, because you have, on either side of the border, you have Baksa, and then you have Sarpang, you have Samse, and then you go all the way back into Neoro Valley, back into India, and then extends all the way into Nepal, Chapa, all those areas. And so all of this, of course, was a connected landscape in the past, but right now it's very much fragmented. And that's one of the key reasons, one of the fundamental reasons why we are seeing this whole issues of conflict and things like that. There's a question related to that, which I think from Ajanta De, and who says that it's very much apparent that this is these are migratory species, you need more landscape approaches, and there's major transboundary issues. And so I think Ms. Dorji has pretty much answered that question. It is very comprehensively answered, I think. So As far as the MIC program is concerned, I don't think there's been much of a transboundary focus so far, but perhaps that is something that could come in the future. It's something to be considered. Any other questions, comments, anything like that?
I think Dr. Aditya, maybe Dr. Nakul might want to add few, if I may.
Sure.
Dr. Nakul, would you like to?
Dr. Tasi, I think is okay. You have already covered everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so if I can sum up sort of what we've been looking at and hearing today, I'd actually like to start off with the presentation made by Dr. Nakul Chetri, which I was very struck by that network diagram of the research that is going on for human-wildlife conflict, and how it is that, you know, Nepal, India, and Bhutan are kind of in different parts of that map. You know, there's not that much connecting them. So I think that really shows one of the major issues that is there, that this is a transboundary problem, and there does need to be a lot more collaboration across both the scientists and the policymakers in these three countries. So I think that's a great diagram that really sets the tone of the sort of both this session as well as the sessions that we have in the future that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. Apart from that, a few sort of common threads that came across in the presentations. Conflict, of course, is one of the major issues of elephant conservation. And if we are to conserve elephants and if we are to prevent, you know, retaliatory killings and all kinds of illegal deaths of elephants, we have to put people at the center of the whole thing. It is not reasonable to expect that people will be very happy to conserve elephants when they are themselves dying and when their crops are being damaged. And so these are issues that are extremely difficult to solve, but they need to be addressed nevertheless. There's a few emerging issues of linear barriers, fragmentation, which affect elephant movement. And these are really coming up and are likely to increase quite a bit in the future because there's major infrastructure projects going on in these areas. Particularly, we're talking about upgradation of highway networks, railway networks as well in some places. So all of these are quite important. As you know, in North Bengal, we've seen, for example, how the upgradation of the railway network really led to quite a lot of increase in elephant casualties on that railway line. There's quite a lot of high regional variation within each of the countries. And so you have situations where you have low density elephant populations that come in once in a while. And then you have other areas where elephants are residents pretty much throughout the year. And so the sort of strategies that you use have to be quite different for these areas. How do we manage elephant behavior, but also how do we manage human behavior? That's a point, very important point made by Dr. Prathan, that ultimately there's a lot of issues of human behavior in conflict, and whether we can work on methods where we can, at a societal level, people can change their behaviors to make it safer to live within shared landscapes. Of course, there's the whole issue of habitat degradation, spatial information as a core determinant for how we determine the policies and the management actions, particularly at the ground level, and the need to ensure that these data are collected, they're stored in a particular good way, and they're made accessible to the managers to use. So all of these are important issues that were raised. And I'd like to sort of sum up by saying that these are all extremely important points. And I think IUC and I believe will be taking forward these issues with the MIC Secretariat and hope that we will be able to, you know, provide some kind of support for these in the future. So maybe I think there's one more question or a comment, I believe. We do have, so this is a question about specifically about Simlipal Reserve, which is in Mayurbhanj in Odisha in India. So we do have my program going on there that will be coming up in the next, I think in a couple of weeks or so. Today we're kind of, you know, focusing more on Nepal and Bhutan. So I would like to now hand over to Dr. Vivek Saxena for his closing remarks for today.
Yeah, thank you, Aditya. And really, we had a very good and informative session, and with the presence of all eminent and key resource persons from Nepal, Bhutan, and ECMOD, and presence of Ms. Aban from Asia Regional Office, Mr. Scott Perkin, also from National Energy Group from the IUCN Asia Regional Office, Bangkok, and also from the European Union. And really, we had a very good discussion today, and also the feedback regarding the key learnings from the MIC program, because one of the key challenges that MIC program, which was in initial phase, and after that there was some sort of a break, then during the present phase again, now it is coming to an end this month. But further to that, there is a challenge to sustain it further. So we need to look forward together with the key learnings, especially in this region, when India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, when we have a transboundary challenges also, we have a similar type of human-elephant conflict management issues, and also the sharing of knowledge through which we can integrate technological innovations also in addressing these human-elephant conflict management issues. So this was the first of the webinar series which was organized today. And the next one is on 18th, when we will have similar discussions based on Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. And then subsequent to that, there will be 3 more series. One will be a very interesting, in which the knowledge sharing or sharing of the experience of integration of the various type of technological innovations in different regions. And we will also be learning during the webinar series, when we will have feedback from the MIC sites in India, in which we will also representative from non-MIC sites, states also, where the human-elephant conflict challenges have become quite serious now. So certainly the key message from the today webinar series is, one is that rather than having the site level program future development, we need to either expand the MIC sites, or we need to look into the issues where the dimensions of human-elephant conflict management issues are quite severe or quite challenging. And second is that looking for the innovative solutions based on the site-specific as appropriate measures. Third is readily making available or facilitating such type of solutions to the field officials, managers through various type of support system. And fourth is for sustainability of or continuity of the MIC program, we need to develop together such type of program, integrating all these key learnings, and also looking for the donor support. And I am also grateful that Dr. Nakul Chetri and Mr. Tashi Dorji from ECMOD, they are also willing to strengthen our future program, and we can look forward to them. At least out of 5 countries in South Asia where MIC program is there, other than Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Bhutan, they are also members of ECMOD. So at the transboundary level within these countries, if ECMOD can also support partly in such future programs, so that will also be great. And with these words, I again thank you everyone, and to all the panelists, all the participants who spared their valuable time, and also thanks to Mr. Aditya Gangadharan for moderating the session. And he has been passionate about the elephant. And when I joined IUCN, my first visit was to Bhutan only, in the Samse division, where I learned that how to have through the early warning system, through the community sensitization, how can these challenges can be addressed. I see one, I think regarding Simlimar Biosphere Reserve, we will be discussing in subsequent webinars. So you are welcome to join there and your suggestion is well noted that some more think that how to take the issues related to the Similipal Reserve also. And if there are no further questions, then thank you very much. And I request everyone to join in all the subsequent webinars, because it will be some sort of a mutual transboundary learning. And during COVID times, at least this is a new way. At least we all could come together, and without physical travel, at least we have learned. But this is not the option. We have to have some sort of a hybrid model. So looking forward, once the things become normal, to meet physically also and visit in the field together, because real knowledge one gains by seeing, but seeing is believing. And so we have to move in the field. We have to go in the field to learn, to address those challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saxena. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.